Hi everybody, welcome back to Woman Carrying Man. I am Jake, this is Nadia, this is Buddy, and this is Sedona, and today we are talking about The Menu. I would call it a dark comedy. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie. It has some thriller elements, and there are horror elements, but it is mostly like a dark comedy.
That's how I would describe it too.
Yeah. What did you think of this movie?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to rate it 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
But I would recommend it.
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of things that works and doesn't work. Mostly, I think that the ending becomes very predictable at a certain point. Also feels very unsatisfying, which I can get into the spoiler section why that is. But that's the biggest thing is I was expecting a little bit more of a bang at the end. And it was I was very indifferent. Like the ending was like, whatever.
It's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's what it did. I mean, it wasn't wrong. It was just not enough. It just didn't have enough.
What happened, my biggest criticism of the film is that it goes downward when it comes to stakes, right? The stakes are high when you get into the beginning of second act, and then it just keeps the stakes just are
they stay the same.
They stay the same, and it ends up actually, like, I feel like there's no stake at the end because of XYZ that I'll get into later. So I felt like at the end, I didn't really care about what happens to the characters. And I felt like the characters also didn't care. So
yeah, there was some irrational behavior from just not super believable behavior for people in this situation. You know, it wanted us to care in the stakes and be scared and like tense. But also the comedy was so broad and they almost were like caricatures of themselves. So it became like, okay, this is just like a long joke, just like one big joke.
I mean, I actually thought that it was really funny.
There were funny moments, for sure.
The chef was really funny.
There were totally funny moments. It just lost its steam in the third act.
Yes, that's the thing. It lost its steam. It just feels like the directors, they cared. And at the end, they were just so tired of editing that they were like, put this thing together and let's roll it out. Like, that's how it felt like to me.
Well, yeah. And it started out, the concept was fun. I was like down, like, this is interesting. There seemed like there were a lot of mysteries. And then the mysteries are just, you think there's going to be more. There's going to be like some kind of sick twist and things will happen. But it just kind of goes as expected. And the twists aren't really twists. And there's one specific scene that felt like a cop-out to me that was kind of annoying. But the problem with me is that it is trying to do like a Jordan Peele style horror social commentary sort of thing, or like Ari Aster, or something that's making a statement about society and about wealth and privilege. And the problem with me is that it was extremely blunt and kind of it was very over the top in the way it did that, which can be fine if it plays into it, but it also wanted to be like this smart Jordan Peele kind of thing, and it just didn't have the intelligence, I think, for it. The script wasn't really smart enough for it. It wanted to be that, and it was just kind of like a schlocky dark comedy thing, and all of the satire was so on the nose that it was just kind of like, okay, we get it, like we get the social commentary. You don't have to keep telling us what it is, It was like there were characters deliberately stating like the themes of this thing, and it was just kind of like, we don't really need that.
I feel like it worked though really well when it was humorous. And it didn't work when it was like more like a statement than.
Yeah.
I feel like it worked really well when a certain character wanted to harm another certain character. It's hard to really say anything without getting into spoilers. So why don't you speak and we can get into spoilers?
Well, I'd rate it a 6. But I'd rate it around there because, like, again, it does things well and it's like a competent movie. Like it definitely had some laughs and it wasn't a waste of time. I enjoyed it, but it also left me unsatisfied, and I forgot about it like the second we left because it just kind of delivers on its premise without developing, or like you said, perfectly, like just like raising the stakes more in the second and third act. I wish that it had the guts to be a little campy and be a little wild. It felt like it was trying to be too tame when it's like the material is kind of demanding more of a stupid, just kind of like broad, like if you're going to be this like on the nose about your themes and have these kind of like broad caricatures that you're making fun of, then you should take it to the limit and be like, I don't know, barbarian, where it just kind of like, you think it's like we figured out the premise, and it just keeps going and it keeps like being more wild and ridiculous. And I personally like that, but it felt like this was sort of a lowbrow movie that wanted to be highbrow and was trying to be like stylistically that way. Anyways,
also,
that's my
I
thought.
think like a lot of at certain points start to expect a little bit more. You overestimate what the movie is going to deliver.
It's not as smart as it thinks it is.
Yeah, or they just miss like a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Let's do spoilers.
okay.
Funniest thing to me was the Nicholas Hoult character.
I know. Okay, so I was gonna talk about him
How he's
because
so obsessed with
he
the kid.
is so obsessed. He like this is like a cult like kind of like chef. At the end, it's revealed that Nicholas's character actually knew that they were all going to die, or that was the plan. But he still went. He is a shitty character himself because he's such a fan of the chef. He didn't care. I also thought it was really funny how much he just was so gone. Like he was mentally just not there when it came to these crazy actions that the chef was doing. Like someone gets shot, the sous chef gets shot, and then he's like, "Oh, this is good food."
Well, he
what
came
happened?
there
Why
to-
is everyone so?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he came there to be part of it. He wanted to die. He knew what was going to happen.
He wanted He wanted to die because it was by his god, basically.
Oh, so that's the thing. It's like the concept in all these characters, it's so over the top that it's like you really can't play this to be like highbrow kind of movie experience. Like it's kind of like you got to play into the campiness, I think. And like for like one of the funniest moments in the movie was when the director asks the chef, like, why am I here? Why do I deserve to die? Because like everyone,
that's my
everyone
favorite
has like a
part.
lesson where it's like, oh, you were the critic who like didn't listen to me or whatever. Like there's a reason why these people are here who are going to die. But the director's like, why me? And then the chef's like, one time I was working so hard and on my one day off on Sunday, I went to see your film and it made me so depressed. It was so awful. And
You
he's like,
ruined my day off.
and the director's like, I didn't even make that. I was just in it. He's like, but your face just reminds me of how worthless and how art can just be corrupted by, greed. And it's like,
Basically, he ruined his day, so you're here because he associates.
Don't cross this guy ever. Like you're gonna be.
Well, and I think that's the part of the film that really works well is that it's just like the film is about a chef who's fed up with everyone. He's worked his whole life to try to satisfy his mother, satisfy all his food critics, satisfy his customers, but then he like basically reaches a breaking point and he wants to kill everyone because he's just tired. Like he realizes that the world can't be satisfied. And at the end, he loses the love of cooking. He says that like he hasn't wanted to cook for anyone in a while. And Anya Taylor-Joy's character brings that love back because he associates all these people who wronged him, I guess, as people who are in this privileged class that he never felt like he was part of because he grew up poor. And Anya's character is someone who accidentally ends up making it to the dinner because she's from, which I thought was very convenient, by the way, because he planned everything so particularly and so methodically.
No, I thought that was good. She was an escort, and she.
But he did so much research into everyone's background, and he didn't do research into like who.
No, but she
Nicholas's
wasn't supposed
character.
to be there. Remember, he changed at the last minute because his girlfriend.
Yeah, but I'm like surprised that they accepted it. I guess.
I guess, yeah.
I guess she did have a false name.
But this is maybe. But I mean, this is why I thought that it was going to be halfway through the movie. I was like. Maybe not halfway, but the first act, I'm like, all of the guests here, they aren't really happy with whoever they're bringing, And like, he clearly treats her like as discardable. So I'm thinking maybe part of the appeal of this island is like these super wealthy people go here and they bring one guest that they don't like that, they can just make disappear and eat them. And it's like, that's the ultimate dining experience, like we're going to eat humans. And I don't know why I thought cannibalism was going to be in this movie and it wasn't. And I almost think that would have been a cooler concept, but instead it was just very much like this on the nose, like I, have been feeding you rich people and I'm going to now burn you all alive and kill you all. And it's part of the menu to like make this perfect final statement. I almost wish like the people that worked for him were a little more nuanced in that maybe some of them wanted to put a wrench in the plan and didn't want to die, like
You
this.
know,
There could have been a lot more complexity going on, but it just kind of went, it was a little too simple. It needed some escalation.
I think that your concept of what you thought it would be is very similar to this film called The Red Dragon.
Oh, the Hannibal
Uh-huh.
movie, yeah.
And I think the chef is actually the main character there as well in The Red Dragon. So anyway, what I wanted to say, and I just wanted to make my earlier point, was that Anya's character, she ends up making it out alive because she asks the chef for a cheeseburger, a really good cheeseburger, which is a very I guess poor, cheap kind of association with that, right? It's the most basic kind of fast food in American culture. That brings his love of cooking back, so he lets her go, and that's just very unsatisfying end because she just ends up escaping and she just eats her cheeseburger watching everything burn, and it's she doesn't care anymore that she escaped. There's no the urgency of her wanting to survive is gone all of a sudden at the end.
Yeah.
And also the urgency of everyone else wanting to survive, when they put marshmallow on them, right, as clothing, and then there's very clear message that they're all going to be burnt alive at the end. It's no one cares.
They all just sit there
They're
while
just
it
all
happens.
sit there while it happens. It's why are you guys just sitting there? What's at stake anymore? And that's what I mean. There's nothing at stake anymore. They just all give up and they're eh. But then he even the chef even says if you guys had tried harder,
you probably could have
escaped. And it's why aren't they trying harder? If they were all depressed and they wanted to die, which is what I feel the subtext is kind of saying, why is that? It kind of feels a little unclear.
It all felt a little ridiculous at a certain point, just the way the way the characters were behaving. It felt a little undercooked just as a screenplay. It could have, if you're trying to make it realistic, then you got to try to bring a little more roundedness to the characters, I think, and make things make a little more sense in the story. But if it was just trying to maybe be a little more campy, I'd forgive it. And if it was trying to just be wild and over the top, great, but it was neither. So it was disappointing. That whole thing with the cheeseburger felt really unearned, and it felt almost like a cop-out. It was almost I don't know, watching a movie, a kid's movie, and it's oh, you have the big bad troll you have to defeat. How will we defeat it? Well, we tried to stab it. That didn't work. We tried to, kick it. That didn't work. Well, did you think about reading his bedtime story? That was his favorite when he was a kid. Wow, that worked. He's let us through. And it's it felt the same way, where it's just kind of she just asks for a cheeseburger and then he just is has a change of heart.
Yeah, and what I thought was going to happen was that she was going to because she the whole time it's I don't care, I don't give any fucks, right? And then I thought what was going to happen was that she was going to come back and rescue everyone, and that didn't happen. So it just felt very anticlimactic. Is that the
well,
word?
I think so, but I think it was also a statement of oh, those crazy rich people. I mean,
but it's just felt very unsatisfying. The ending felt that's what all of that led to. If it felt okay, there's so many opportunities there. You think when the sous chef kills himself, you think that they're going to start eating him live, or they're going to start dissecting
I wanted it to go
him.
to those extremes. It had all these opportunities to be to push the story and make it more extreme and interesting, and it just kind of goes
But that's the thing. Sometimes, you think it's going to go a certain way and it gets even worse than that. Then it's oh my God, I thought this was going to happen, but holy shit, they're doing something even worse. Oh, expected too much out of this scene.
I know.
And that's what killed it.
Yeah,
because the humor was there in a lot of ways, but I think that just the lack of action.
It needed more. It needed just a little a little punch up in the final.
I feel this would be a good novel.
No.
But not I feel I would enjoy this novel because I think there's a way to write it where it's more internal dialogue and other things maybe that's going on, that it's hinting at a lot of subtext about why these characters want to die. I just keep going back to when he said the chef said think about why you guys didn't try harder to escape, right? And what that is, and is it gluttony? What is that, right? Greed and all those things. I think a novel can kind of dissect that more, but in a script, especially something that's trying to be humorous, supposed to be something commentary about more of a society or social culture of the rich or whatever it's trying to portray, it just didn't meet its end goal in the way that I think that they intend to do so. I kind of want this film to be remade in like 20 years because I think that there's a lot of potential here that was missed.
Give it to the screenwriters of Die Hard to work on.
I still recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, check it out. I mean,
just don't get your hopes up.
Lower your expectations. Thank you for watching, everyone. We will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.